everyone, I'm Morgan, and today I wanted to start a new video on my channel, a vlog, where I'm going to read strictly thrillers. I have been meaning to get into thrillers. I have read a few over the years, but it's never been a genre that I've been like too much into. I do like the ones that I have read, which is why I want to read more. And I've also been inspired by a video that I saw on Books Like Whoa, but on Maura's channel, Books Like Whoa. She's reading a lot of science fiction this year to find out what she likes in science fiction. She's reading all of the Goodreads nominees from last year. I did think of reading the Goodreads nominees of last year for thrillers, but those are not really the ones that I'm interested in. I did look, and so I actually went and looked at some articles of best thrillers of all time, because those are more the ones that I wanted to read. And of those I picked quite a few, so of the best ones of all time, but also picked some more recent thrillers. In the end I picked two that are quite old, two that are new releases, and two that are more recent, but not as much as the two from this year. So I will tell you what those 6 books are. So first, the two like older ones are Eye of the Needle by Ken Follett. I have been meaning to read this one. I actually bought it last year after I saw it on a list of best thrillers of all time. I have been meaning to read something by Ken Follett, but most of his books are like so huge and historical fiction, so I'm interested in them, but I just have not been wanting to buy them because they're so big, and I have a lot of big books on my TBR already, but this one is much shorter, so I think I'm going to be able to get through it. All I know is that this is about spies. I'm not even sure if I read that or if I just assumed, because there's a swastika on it, so from Nazis, so I guess it's about that, but I don't really know. The other older book that I have is In the Woods by Tana. This is the first book in the Dublin Murder Squad series, I think. I don't really know much about this. I know it follows a detective, or I think I remember. I've seen quite a few people reading it recently actually, but I am really good at forgetting what people say about synopses, so yeah. But I think it's going to be my thing, because I've heard the writing is like pretty literary, like there's not a lot that happens, but the writing is really good, so that's like my thing usually. Next, for the more recent ones, I have Sharp Objects by Gillian. Gillian Flynn is one of the authors that I have to read more of this year, as I gave 5 stars to Gone Girl by her last year. So I heard Sharp Objects is really good, so I'm hoping I like it. Then I have Sadie by Courtney that I really want to read. I heard about it so much at the end of last year in like list of favorite books of the year. I know this is a YA thriller about a girl who gets murdered at the beginning of the book, and it's about her sister who's trying to find out about her murder, I think. As I said, don't really remember my synopses usually, but I think that's what it's about. I don't mind not knowing a lot about thrillers before going in, because it's more interesting that way, I guess. I've heard the audiobook is really great, so I'm going to listen to this one as an audiobook, because there's something about a podcast also. I think the girl who is investigating is doing a podcast, so it will be interesting. And last 2 books I have are What Lies Between Us by John Mars. I've heard quite a bit about John Mars over the last few months. I've heard he's a great thriller writer, so I have this one as an ARC. It actually came out in May, so I have to get to it pretty soon actually, because the ARC will soon expire if I don't. But I also have the one by him on audiobook that I bought because for the audiobook is a full cast, so I'm really interested in that one. So maybe I will do a part 2 of this and read that one. But right now I have this book. And the last one is Catherine House by Elisabeth Thomas. This also came out pretty recently and I've been meaning to read it. I actually heard about this book because I paid a subscription at the site MyTBR, which you can pay $15 every 3 months and they recommend you 3 books. I have heard about this on Books and Lala's channel. She made a video where she used this subscription service and read all the books to see how good the recommendations were. And I actually heard about it before, but I didn't used to have enough money, so now that I do, I wanted to try it, and one of the 3 recommendations that I got was this one. It's also supposed to be a literary thriller, so I think it's going to be up my alley. And from what I remember of the synopsis, it reminded me a little bit of The Secret History by Tana, which is one of my favorite books of all time, so I'm hoping it has something similar, but we will see. So yeah, I will update you once I get into one of these books, as I probably am going to read What Lies Between Us first, as I have to read it. So yeah. I've read about 80 pages of What Lies Between Us, and so far I would say it's pretty good. It's really twisted. It's the story of 2 people, one daughter and her mother, and they have been left by the father early on in the daughter's life. And she really can't get over it because he didn't say goodbye or anything, and she blames her mother for this. And so we follow them when the father just left, and also 25 years later, when the daughter has imprisoned her mother in the apartment. She chains her every day and only brings back stuff to eat and to read. Like, she controls everything about her life. It's really weird and creepy, so I don't know if I like it, but I'd say it's good, so we'll see. I've read a bit more of What Lies Between Us and it's still really creepy. Yeah, like it got even creepier. So the story is that there's Mina, the daughter, has had a relationship with an older man when she was 15, and she was really into him, and she hid from her mother the relationship, but she discovered it and she tried to talk to the man, but he wouldn't listen at all. He threatened her, and so that's where I'm at. In the past, we don't really know what's going to happen with that, but there's a lot of foreshadowing, so I'm waiting to see where that goes. But I don't know, it's just this book is really troubling, I would say. It is definitely entertaining, so there's that, but I'm not sure I love this. I'm a bit more than 60% into the book, and a lot of the things that I predicted have happened, so I'm not really into this book at all, because usually thrillers are all about the twists, and if you predict all the twists and they're not really satisfying, then I think the book isn't really worth it. But there was at least one twist that I didn't predict, and I do like the writing in the book. Like, I'm not struggling to continue, but it's not that good in my opinion, and I'm really surprised because I've only heard good things about this book, but I'm finding that maybe people are surprised by a lot more things than I am. So that's why typically I don't love most thrillers. I'm really picky with them, as I said in the beginning, so hopefully the ones who that are the best of the best will be better than this. But yes, this one so far isn't my favorite. I'm back home and I finished What Lies Between Us about a week ago. I didn't like the ending, and just overall I didn't really like this book. The writing was fine, but besides that, like, the characters and the plot were all over the place, and it's just not the kind of thriller I like because it doesn't make any sense. And I know lots of people like those kinds of thrillers. Like, earlier this year I tried reading The Other People by C.J. Tudor also, and I was not into it at all. I DNF'd it really fast because there were so many places where I had to suspend disbelief, and that's just not my thing. I want thrillers to be scary but also to make sense, at least somewhat, and this one did not. So first book, not really great, but next I'm going to start Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, so I think this one will be a lot better. For a bit outside the other day, and then more at home, so I'm more than halfway into Sharp Objects. I'm enjoying it somewhat, but I think it's trying to do too many things. Basically, the story is about this woman who is a journalist in Chicago, and she is sent to her hometown to investigate the murder and the disappearance of two little girls. Well, not really investigate, but write about them. And so she is trying to glean information, and during that time she is living with her mother again, and they've never had a good relationship, so it's really like weird and tense between them. And she also has a half-sister that she hasn't seen much, who is 13, and she has quite an attitude. She is kind of an asshole most of the time, but sometimes she does good things. It's kind of weird. There's that. There's also a bit of plot about the fact that so this main character cuts herself, or at least she used to, so she has a lot of scars. It's just that there are so many plots and subplots in this that I'm not really sure what to focus on. And so, like, this book is pretty short, so having so many subplots and so short a book, I'm not sure is great. But overall, I am enjoying this. I always like the small town feel that I get sometimes in books. And also, there are some bits about, like, feminist ideas and little jabs that I do think is fun. Because she is talking with a lot of people who live in this small town that she is from, and they have very old ideas, should I say. Don't really know how to say this. There's a woman who is saying that the place of a woman is to have kids and stay at home, like cliche stuff like that, but they really mean it. And she is brought back to that, and it's really weird for her because she has been away from this town for a long time, and I just I don't know, I'm enjoying this. So I finished it, and you know, I liked it quite a bit, but it got crazier and crazier the closer I got to the end, so I didn't really love that. And it was pretty obvious who had killed those girls, so I was just kind of annoyed because it seemed like a huge reveal towards the end, when really like we were pushed to think that throughout most of the book. So I didn't really love that. Also, this is Gillian Flynn's debut, so that's probably why. I think she's gotten better at writing books over time, which is normal. So yeah, this one was pretty good, but not amazing, so I'm giving it like 3 stars. It's fine, you know. Oh, I'm quite happy I read it, I guess, but it's not the best book I've read, definitely. So I'm hoping the next ones will be even better. Also, one thing I didn't mention about this family is that the fact that all these murders are really affecting them comes also from the fact that they've also lost a girl. The main character's sister has died when she was small, so they're just being brought back all those feelings, and then some part of the story is linked to them too, so it's really something. Hi, it's been a while since I updated you, but you probably not know that except from my closing, which is much hotter. I don't know. Yeah, I did read Sadie before I went on vacation. I thought it was pretty disappointing actually, but I guess it's mostly because people talked about it in such a good way when it came out that I got to have some unrealistic expectations, and it definitely did not meet them. It was still a fine book, like, but my problem was, as usual with books, was with the characterization. So I thought Sadie was just too flat for me. Like, all we know about her is that her sister has died and she wants to, well, actually no, that's not true. Her sister is missing and she wants to know where she went, obviously, so she's looking for her sister. And we also know that her mother has left them, and they were looking after each other basically, though they do also have their grandmother that lives not very far away, and that's pretty much all we know about her. And also, no, she has a stutter, and so when you listen to the audiobook you have the stutter all throughout her part, which was a nice touch, I guess, but nothing amazing. And also, like, there's a podcast, so we follow Sadie, and we also follow this guy who's doing this podcast about this girl that is missing in a small city in the United States. And so I guess people said that the audiobook was amazing because of that, because of the podcast, but really, like, this came out about 2 years ago now, and it was perhaps a really good audiobook for the time, but now it's just fine. Like, I've listened to so many good audiobooks, like, better than this one, so it just didn't live up to the hype for me. Also, like, I didn't really love the ending because we don't really get an answer, like, as to what happened to Sadie, because she goes to look for her sister and some other stuff, so not everything was resolved, and the only thing that I expect from mystery is to actually know what happened at the end, and I didn't in this one, so that was really disappointing. And yeah, it's just in general I wasn't a fan. The writing was fine, but nothing special, and yeah, I just was disappointed. And I've really heard so many good reviews of it, so I'm surprised, but it happens, and we don't all have the same taste, obviously. And I also did start Catherine the House the other day, and I'm already like a bit more than a third into it, and I'm not really sure it's a thriller. It feels more like a mystery. It's a really weird story. So it's about Catherine House. Basically, Catherine is this sort of college that is very I don't know, elite, and so we follow this girl who just got into this school. So we follow her from the beginning when she gets to school, and so throughout the school year. And right now, so there's been some sort of I don't know, coming in, that's what they call it, like an event to welcome them after 4 months. So and they use some sort of technology, so it seems to be sort of speculative as well, which I didn't expect. And yeah, it doesn't really feel like a thriller. I mean, it does have thrills, I guess, but it's more in the mystery side, which is typically my jam, so I am enjoying it. I did read quite a bit last night, and I think I'm going to continue on with it. But yeah, that's the update. I finished Catherine's House a few days ago, and honestly, I loved it. It's one of the only books ever that has given me the same vibes as The Secret History, and it is one of my favorite books of all time, so obviously I'm looking for those vibes, especially in fall. So it's just really interesting. The speculative aspect isn't really explained, but that was okay for me. I was just so into like the whole mystery and wanting to find out, and just also enjoying the people. So the main character, but also her friends, and the, I don't know, mystique of this house, Catherine House, that we still don't know a lot about. And I mean, we do learn some stuff that is happening there, and I did like the ending as well. I don't know, it was really my thing for some reason. And I also like the writing style. Like, it was pretty sparse, but that often works for me. I don't think it was very like lyrical and descriptive, just at times maybe a little bit descriptive, like for the atmosphere, but just enough to get into the book, I guess. So it was pretty nice, and I would highly recommend it. I mean, I have seen pretty bad reviews for it, and people were mostly criticizing the writing, which I guess that I get. Not everyone likes that type of writing, which isn't very lyrical, but it's really my thing. Like, it makes me think of Sally Rooney and Lily King and other authors who I think write pretty beautiful sentences in my opinion, but they're very simple more often than not. And just once in a while you get a sentence that is a bit more complicated, and it was really my thing. Like, I read it so fast, honestly. Like, I read it every time before bed, and I read for at least an hour because I could not stop reading, and that's what I wanted, especially right now, so perfect experience. But yeah, this one was definitely a mystery and not a thriller. Some parts are thrilling, so I was expecting to like it because mysteries are typically my thing, and then thrillers I struggle with. So for this experiment, it's not really meaningful, I guess, but at least I read a good book. And I am going to start Eye of the Needle next, but I need to read all the books now, so it might take a few days. Hey, so I finished the Eye of the Needle, and I was so into this for the first 2/3 at least. The ending was okay. I just thought it became a little bit dramatic towards the last third. But so this story was about a spy, a German spy in the UK during the Second World War, and what he discovered, and it was very, very important. And we also follow two UK, well, yeah, English spies who are trying to catch him, and a few other characters, like one other, who is a woman and becomes important the more we go through the book. And I was really into this, like the action about spies and everything. I was so excited. Like, it's still not necessarily a lot of action, actually. It's, I don't know how to say it, because you know, there's this underlying tension that you have sometimes in thrillers, I guess, and here, because there are spies during the Second World War and what they were doing was really important. It just was so exciting, and I was actually kind of rooting for this German spy, though I know how the world ended, so I kind of knew how he would end up, but I still really, really like this, and I would highly recommend. So I can actually like a thriller apparently, at least if it's about spies, and I'm looking forward to read more books about spies because I seem to like this. I also started Into the Woods, is it? By Tana French, and I am loving it so far. Like, honestly, if I didn't have to study right now, I would probably read it all day and just finish it. It's quite a long book, which I wasn't expecting, but it's so good. So we follow these two characters, a man and a woman, who work together in Ireland, and they are detectives. And there's this girl that has been murdered, and they found her in a dig. So archaeologists were digging to find like some remains, and they saw this girl and called the police. So they're here to investigate this murder, and it's also about the man detective who is actually from this city and what happened to him as a kid, because he was missing for a few days with two of his friends when he was 12, and his friends have never been found, and he came back and never remembered anything. So this brings back memories, and the way the story is told is kind of weird, in that it's like he's telling you a story, but like, you know, from the future. So he's looking back on everything that happened and kind of telling you here and there, we knew like this was going to happen or something. So he's like, you know, saying a few commentaries or something about what happened at that time, and it just makes it for a really interesting read. And it's so well written, like the characters are so fleshed out, and the setting as well. I'm really into Ireland, in this small city, village, whatever. All of it is great. Like, I have nothing to say, but I would say it's a thriller, but it's a lot more mystery, and that's, I guess, why I like it. I tend to love mystery, so I shouldn't be surprised that this is for me. But it is also a thriller. I just think now that I don't actually like typical thrillers, you know, like things that you could not call a mystery, and so I don't know. But then again, Eye of the Needle is a thriller, so I guess I can like thrillers, just specific ones perhaps, but just not the ones that people tend to talk about when they talk about thrillers. I feel nowadays, like domestic thrillers usually don't work that well for me. I don't care that much, but as soon as it's something else than like normal life, then I think it gets more interesting, I guess. Yeah, that's all I have to say right now. I finished In the Woods a few days ago already, and it was so very good, but at the same time, like, I had a few qualms with it, and I was a little disappointed because for a while I thought this would probably be one of my new favorite books, and in the end it wasn't, because starting from like the 60% mark or something, Tana French started to write just all these twists that I guess were made to make the story interesting, but I thought was just too much and very purposeful, and I didn't think it made sense in the story. Like, it's one of these cases as that I see too much of characters not acting like the way I think they should. So like the whole book is them acting a certain way, and then suddenly, because the story needs it, they start acting another way, and it just is very jarring always, and I do not enjoy it. So I was a bit disappointed with that, but overall I loved like the atmosphere and the writing. It really reminded me of The Secret History and the way the story is woven and the mystery, and that is high praise for me. I love The Secret History. It's one of my favorite books ever, and any book I compare to it is a good book, so I enjoyed it a lot. But yeah, just a few things that made it a bit disappointing, unfortunately, but overall very good experience. But once again, like, it's not very much a thriller, like a little bit for sure, but it's mostly a mystery, so it makes sense. I enjoy it. So if I have to say, like, do I enjoy thrillers in general? Yes, sometimes. Eye of the Needle was a thriller and I enjoyed that, but overall mysteries are a lot more my thing. So I still need to search a bit more to see what kind of thriller specifically I enjoy. And that's what I was trying to find out with this little experiment. But yeah, I really enjoyed In the Woods. I will be continuing with the series. I already bought all the other books on ebook because they were cheap, so that's going to happen sometime. And yeah, I read some bad books in this video. I read some good books, so this was still like quite a fun experience, and I will be doing this again with more books in the future. I already have them picked out, so that will happen eventually. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say for this video. I think I like thrillers. I'm not sure which ones. Whatever, it was still a fun time, so that's good. Yeah, that's all I have to say. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you soon in that video. Goodbye.
Dream I know, deep up my feelings for you.